Just anywhere closer to the center. If you want to sit here. Yeah, thank you. Hola. Give you the microphone and the clicker.
Yes.
You are next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, please. Not on the tribune, toch?
No.
Right.
You tell.
Pizzas are
Is
only
there?
here.
Pizza's well in here. And
Ja, je moet allemaal gezellig verspreiden.
graag, please. So now it's getting, not it's getting gezellig.
Yeah.
Now it's getting warmer.
Iedereen naar je kijken.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hallo.
Tasty. Pizzas are here.
Drinks are already. You just take whatever you want.
You can also join here. The pizzas are in the, not for the tribune. Oh, if you want to stay. I think many people said.
Okay. You let me know. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody who's here with us today in person and those that will be or are watching from home. It's a pleasure again to host another BK Talks. This time we'll be talking about diversity, reflecting on diversity and inclusion. This is, I think, the second BK Talks this year, and I'm happy that the program is going on. So welcome all of you who are here today. You can anytime get up and fetch a drink or a snack, and in a few minutes we will have pizzas coming, about 50 pizzas, so I think there's one pizza per person. I hope that you're hungry. Otherwise we will bring them home, but we will not throw them away. We will start distributing the pizzas dough after the presenters today have, let's say, pitch the question. You know, so that the discussion starts later, and then we have the discussion with our pizza slices, etc. So, as I said, I'm very happy to be hosting again a BK Talks on diversity. Diversity was the first topic that we touched upon on the first BK Talks that took place 4 years ago when we started this program. So this has been, throughout these 4 years, the subject of all these BK Talks that we have been celebrating. Cecile, which will talk to us in a few minutes, was also present in one of these, exactly that one. And after celebrating those diversity BK Talks, we ended up also organizing a very small exhibition with a lot of text. I know that sometimes exhibitions with a lot of text don't work so well, but I love text. I love writing and I love reading. So yeah, I have the luxury of choosing that it would be text, but it was a really interesting collection of text that I recommend everybody to read about diversity, inclusion in general, and diversity and inclusion in education. So the leaflets are still around. I really recommend recommend everybody, if you have time, to read a little bit what was written for that exhibition. So, as I said, diversity and inclusion has been a topic that we are touching upon almost every semester, and I think it's really necessary that we keep doing that. I've just received news about reports that arrive, and we are probably, or some are probably, not doing so well. So there's a lot of room for improvement. Today with us, we have 5 panelists. Of course, Cecile Callis, you know her very well. I will introduce her later. She's, let's say, the soul of this event happening today. But I want to start by introducing Lakshmi. Sorry, forgive me for the bad pronunciation. She is spending a few weeks with us. 2 weeks, okay. I guess that you will be very tired after the 2 weeks. So I understood that she's attending a lot of events and a lot of presentations, meetings, etc. So it's a pleasure to have her here with us today. She's coming all the way from London. I will give her the word and she can introduce herself better than I can. And she will give a lecture in 2 days at the Berlage Zaal, if I'm correct, at 5 p.m. So all those interested can also go see a longer presentation of her work. Leo van der Burg, I think, is a person that we all know already. He's the coordinator, program director of the Bachelor Education and section leader of urban design. He has also been with us in several occasions at the BK Talk, so you know the format well. Salum Darbu, excuse my bad pronunciation, please. He is here as Diversity and Inclusion Officer at the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering. As I said, he will introduce his work better, himself and his work better in a few minutes. TJ Rivera, there. TJ is a graduating student, an active member of the diversity team. I just pick a few words because reading such a CV would be the most boring thing we could do tonight. So it's all on the website anyway. And finally, Irene Luque Martin is the only one that I can pronounce properly because it's my mother tongue. And she's a researcher, and she's also a teacher, and she's here, I'm sorry. And I chose that you are dedicated to preparing the next generation of urban designers to be the agents of change, instilling them in the importance of daring. And I think we will be working on or talking about daring in a few minutes. She has also picked some kind of, let's say, new format of a presentation. It won't be a PowerPoint, and I hope that it actually works. So let's just cross our fingers. Finally, without further ado, I'm going to give the word to Cecile Callis. She is the community officer and the Faculty of Architecture. She is the person with whom I decided to plot this event. And I'm going to give her the word, and she's going to introduce a little bit the night that we're having. Thank you, Cecile.
Thank you, Javier. Okay. Can I have the...
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, well, welcome you all at this beautiful faculty. I'm the community officer. I'm also part of the diversity board centrally, so that's together with Salum, and Giovanni is also here, diversity officer of civil engineering. I'm part of the diversity team together with the diversity officer, which is, well, now Robert Gorney, but will be Caroline Newton from the 1st of January. And before, Roberto Rocco was our first diversity officer. And I'm a couple of years now in the Diversity Board Central, and what I experienced is how hard it is to grasp the diversity and inclusion. It's a huge container concept, and we all have to learn a lot, well, to get it implemented. And so, although my predecessors have, well, been able to get some nice projects realized already. So there's, at the faculty, there's a pumping room. We have 3 sanitary towels, 2 gender-neutral toilets, and there will be a contemplation room. I think there will be more evaluation about all these features in the next sessions. But the diversity officer at BK is more about creating awareness and about policy making. And the community officer is what I'm doing. Is quite a new function. It's, well, 1.5 years old. And what we do is we organize events on project basis in cooperation with students and stuff, well, hopefully with everybody, to stimulate exchange and have more dialogue, to change the culture a bit, and to also to celebrate diversity in a way. My plan was to organize dinners, but yeah, be welcome. So I started up with the old diversity group, and well, we had to create a little bit of crowd. So we had a table theatrically placed in the model hall for a week, and during lunches we invited everybody to talk about belonging. Do you belong in the faculty? And write about it on the tablecloth. And there were really nice conversations, and then that way we could personally invite people to join our first dinner. There were a couple of you also there, and which was really nice. So we had also tablecloths over there, and people would write a lot of stuff about what could be improved in the faculty to make people more, well, feel at home. And there's this big list we can work a lot about. There's still a lot of to do, but it was first a nice step. The second dinner was a little bit like this. It was about where we at with diversity and inclusion in education and research. And we also had a poll in the university, and we gathered quotes about, well, what people thought, put it on the tablecloths, and together with the speakers, Leo was one of them, we really had nice dialogues, and it was because of the mixture of students and staff and PhDers, really nice and interesting evening. The next one was about artificial intelligence and human intelligence. That was quite popular. A lot of people was also with the TU Delft AI lab. And we had nice conversations, critical ones, but also a workshop, well, sort of workshop atmosphere. And there was a lot of interaction between everybody and to get more aware of what was actually going on. Well, I learned a lot that evening, and I think we can do that again. The spin-off of that one was more workshops and other events. It's just one. Anna created this beautiful poster for it, and the last one was about feedback and feed forward. We had our head of HR, Dorothee Colijn, invited a very nice trainer, and during this meeting, there was also a lot of staff, and we had talked about power structures, and you really could see the awareness growing, and it was really also in the same period of these social safety reports, so it was really useful. Then apart from that, we have separate events. This is Melati, and she started an identity archive on the internet, and so we helped her with setting an exhibition together, putting it together. We had, together with the Bay News, that's our faculty paper, we had a film festival called The Good, The Bad, and In Between, with a lot of movies playing together in different halls in this nice building, and a lot of discussion. We had, together with the hand drawing session, we had a drawing sessions during lunch in the Ketelhuis to get everybody out of the comfort zone and draw each other. And that resulted in 300 drawings put together in the Ketelhuis. And we celebrate every year Purple Friday. That's together with Outside and Silos. And we have posters with text to make you think about what the meaning is of Purple Friday, but also we just have a lot of fun and, pimp yourself purple stuff. We have now also, together with BK Health, meditation sessions. If you can join every Tuesday morning at 8, it's quite early, and in the Friday during lunch. And we have Tai Chi during lunch every Monday. It's all for free. And so, in other words, we have a small diversity office, but actually you're all the community office. So I experience a lot of energy, a lot of joy, a lot of willingness to join these kinds of activities. And so what's next? We'll have a table football cup coming up starting in the November of 24, hopefully also with other people from other faculties would be nice. And the next community dinner will be November 19th, and you can always join. That's for now the, sort of what we've been doing. Hopefully with the new diversity officer, we'll get a bigger team that's, well, a little bit more in the system of the faculty. This was, I'll give the microphone now to
Need the clicker, please.
the word to you, Lakshmi.
Okay, so okay. You can all hear me. Okay. Great. Okay, this is a boring introduction, so probably, yeah. So, so I am going to, let's do an honest introduction. Okay, so I am Lakshmi Priya Rajendran. I am an Indian trying to hold my Indian passport very close to my heart. 10 years in the UK, but I might not hold it very long for all the visa procedure, what I need to take. For instance, no, they gave me 3-day Schengen visa to Germany with multiple entry. Okay, and the documentation, what I need to give is, like, at least I need to prepare for 2 whole days. And I'm a mother of 2, 5-year and 2-year-olds. So immediately me and Rin clicked together, regardless of where we are from, all the struggles of fighting the patriarchal society. How do we overcome the motherhood guilt of me being here for 2 weeks? You know, there are so many things, in my mind. So with that as a background, I've been trained as an architect, urban planner, and designer, and I've done my PhD in the UK, so I've always been interested in, how do you feel included in an alien setting? And my PhD was more in terms of how do we create inclusive spaces? So that has always been, something what I'm interested in. So it's been 3 years since I've joined the Bartlett, and the name, what you see, Maxwell Mutunda, like both of us joined at the same time, and we both were given this great opportunity to be the co-directors of EDI, along with being co-design tutors in a very, very interesting program where we have like 95% of international students. So it's great, and as you all know, Bartlett is a very competitive environment. So all the students who are coming in are like very competitive students, winning these scholarships. And for me, and also to Maxwell, it was very, very important that we make the students at least, comfortable, comfortable to talk. These might be something very, very simple, but these are like everyday struggle these students bring in when they are coming and doing this education in a foreign land. So what I'm going to present today is one of the project. It's a very, very small project. It was part of what we call it as UCL Changemakers. So these are small, under UCL Changemakers, they give very, very small pots of funding to the staff members of the UCL to initiate any change or intervention which improvises or enables better student experience and learning. So me and Maxwell applied for this. So our aim was to reconceptualize architectural studio crits and teaching practice. So one of the reasons we wanted to really reimagine the studio culture is, as we all know, crit is such a very important place in an architecture or urban design student's life, where your work, you share your work, you're being critiqued and reviewed, and you also been given quite a lot of feedback for further development. And we all know it is the core foundation of critical design thinking in a student's life. And there is there's quite a lot of studies and literature and reports which clearly shows the negative impact a negative sort of a crit culture can have on a student, particularly the female, Black, Asian, and minority ethnic, and the global majority, students. So what we did was, the UCL Changemaker was completely a student-led project. So we kind of hired 2 students who were also Chevening scholars. These students literally lead, what kind of questions they want to ask the student, and what kind of topics they want to discuss with the cohort to understand how we can improvise the studio learning. And so some of the reflections and observations were, like students did realize that CRIT could be a very, very constructive, reflective platform. We also tried to engage diversity in terms of bringing in reviewers from different backgrounds, not just from the disciplinary perspective, but also people from different nationalities. There was a gender equity which was there in the panel. So students really did appreciate such a diverse panel, which they thought promotes open dialogue to discuss their work. And there were also like small interventions, like for me, even when I was a student in the UK, CRIT was intimidating just for the fact, the kind of power dynamic it brings forth with it. So for example, a very simple task of giving the timekeeping to the students. The students decide to tell, no, stop it, rather than the staff telling it, had so much of an impact on how they're going to talk, and the level of anxiety was so much different when all the power is given to the student during the CRIT. And another thing was, of course, these informal settings. Why I was literally at awe looking at all the work the BK talks have done, because the informal settings play such an important role. I had not prepared for my introduction where I would talk about my motherhood, but it's just the setting. And how we people are kind of relating. I thought, okay, let me just introduce my real self rather than talking about the research project, what I'm doing and all that. So it's a live example. The informal setting does bring out something different in you. So and also we try to see these CRIT more as conversations rather than a review session. So we kind of change the way we even put it in our timetable. So we don't use the word review. We only use research conversations. So there's a research conversation which will happen, like midterm and all that stuff. So all these were very, very small changes, but it did. These are just few snapshots of how we started off, and one other thing so this is the panel of staff whom we invited for the review, and one other thing what we thought was, although these are students who are coming in, we really wanted to see how it is important for them to treat them as scholars, like how we as academics go and present in the conferences. We kind of provided the similar setting, giving them an opportunity to be free, and and also their knowledge to be valued, and whichever part of the journey what they are, they feel that what they're talking is not something they would be ridiculed of. So these are all some things what we did, and yeah, food played a very, very important role. And I'm not showing the interview snippets because it might take a bit of time, but quite a lot of students said that food made them a different human being in the in the setting. So so for me, as the co-director, which I also share the similar sort of a ethos, with Maxwell, is for us, we need to go beyond representation. We need to go beyond just talking about, are we giving people all the representation, but we need to go towards reception. Need to unlearn the concept of empathy and awareness itself needs to be unlearned, and it requires all staff, students to come together to take this as a shared responsibility, a shared commitment, and shared vision to do this. And as I showed you, some of the things were very, very simple, but it required quite a lot of bureaucracy to be navigated within the department. So, so with that, yeah, I would like to end my talk, and I'll be very happy to take any comment or question or...
one question
before
the final conversation.
So who's that one person?
Who's the fortunate person?
Who's going to... Okay, great, yeah.
Thank you very much. Really inspirational. I sometimes have students and we try to do peer-to-peer assessments, and sometimes I find they're even harsher than I would be to other students. How do you deal with that?
I think that's the reality, right? When they're going to go into practice, they're not going to have a very understanding faculty member, trying to take care of health and well-being of the student. So that is also some way, we really tell the students, and especially with the timekeeping, you can see, who's mean to you in the class, literally, and I think this is also, part of their learning, navigating. But this harsher comment coming from the faculty is far more different from how the student would react and respond to if that is coming from their peers, I suppose. So, yeah, I don't know if that would answer your question,
No,
but yeah.
Thank you very much, yeah.
Thank you.
That's coming later, sorry. Let me be a little bit strict there. Yes. Leo, it's your turn.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I don't have slides, and the disadvantage of not having slides is that there's not much to remind me of the text I want to speak, so I'm going to read it to you, because I did prepare a statement. I want to talk to you about selection. For the sake of tonight's argument, I would say that our community is not diverse. This is because entry to this building is not open for everybody. Both in bachelor's and master's education, we select who enters. In bachelor's through a numerus fixus procedure, and in master's through a portfolio selection. I will focus now on the bachelor's part because that is where my responsibility lies. The amount of students who can enter our bachelor education is limited to 450. Every year, around 1,100 students express an interest in studying with us. And so we need a way to determine who may enter and who may not. And we do this by giving the candidates a writing and drawing exercise. Candidates have to analyze a building in a designed landscape or urban context and write about what they have learned in a 400-word text. Two of our teachers assess the work independently of each other, and together with their high school grades, this determines the ranking order of the candidates. This is a very labor-intensive procedure, but it is incredibly effective. Our dropout rate in the first year is only 10%, much lower than in other faculties. I would say this apparent success comes at a cost: diversity. We are much too good in selecting people like us. Our students, and by the way, teacher population, is not a cross-section of society. Look around you. Yes, we are a colorful and multicultural group with a nice gender balance. But at least in the bachelor, there's an underrepresentation of certain groups. Matthijs van Ruiven, head of the design department of the city of Rotterdam, said, "I need a design team that mirrors the composition of our hyper-diverse city." Meaning more people with a migration background, more people of color, more people with a less privileged social background. He needs designers who know the people they design for. Last week I was in a lecture of Thomas J. Price, the artist of the girl, the famous girl, on the Station Square in Rotterdam. And during his talk, I was thinking of our faculty, because I miss this girl in our community. If you wanted to be an architect all of your life, and if you come from a relatively creative context, there's a big chance you can start with us. But this is unfair for a group of people who never realized they could become an architect in the first place. So again, I would argue that we as a community are not diverse, or not as diverse as we could be. We are not successful enough in reaching groups of people who may enrich us, and too successful in selecting people exactly like us. It seems to me obvious that diversity in our faculty is the result of a decision who is selected to enter. So this is the question I would like to ask the room tonight. do you agree with me that we should be more inclusive, meaning more diverse in our selection, even if this means that our community may become less comfortably exclusive, even if we may have to reject people who desperately want to join our club, maybe for all of their lives? And if yes, what could we do about this?
Does anyone have an answer?
Well, it's a twofold question. First, do you agree? And second, what do we do?
Hi. Why do you wait for them to come here? Why don't you, for instance, go to the Schilderswijk?
We should.
Yeah.
In fact, we think we ought to go to those areas and ask the people or mobilize the people to join us. So this is one of the things that we intend to do in the future.
And would that be sort of like at high school level? You'd go and
Yes.
give lectures there?
Yeah,
So
we
instead
think
of
we have a task going to high schools, especially here in the region, because that's where most of the students come from who study with us, to tell them that we exist and to tell them that they could also join us, and to ask them to participate. But this is, I have to admit, this is a thing of the future.
Yeah.
There
You could even start up with perhaps like some access courses. So these people might not have the push up the ladder that a lot of white, that, you know, like the normal community that fit here. But if you was to generate small satellite access courses in certain high schools, you might then get the people that you'd want.
Maybe, yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
I have to go on, sorry. DJ, you need to wait. You also have your moment. Please, Salum. Otherwise, it's a bit unfair for all the panelists. So let's just keep it like that and then open the conversation. Bear with me, please.
Good evening. My name is Salum Darbu. I'm the faculty D&I officer of mechanical engineering. And I started with my job last year in November. And I'm not really from the academical world. So when I started with my journey at the TU Delft with my job interview, the dean asked me, what's your vision about D&I within the university world? And that was before all the reports about the educational inspectorate. I said, I see D&I as the yellow canary in the coal mine. And I meant in the past, when the workers go under the ground, they had an early warning system with them, and that was the yellow canary. And when the canary fell down, it was an early warning that they have to go up because the environment and the climate was toxic. And he said, oh, and he asked me, what do you mean? I say, I see D&I and the minority groups as a yellow canary. And because of two things. If you want to change your organizational, if you want to have sustainable and structural change, you have to start with the environment. And if you want to know how your organization works, look at the minority groups, because their impact on this toxic environment is bigger, and most of the time they experience it at the first time. And I have to think on one of my favorite poets, and that is Jules Deelder, and he said in Dutch, de omgeving van de mens is de medemens. And in English is the environment of human is their fellow human being. And if we want to have a sustainable D&I policy, we have to work on the organizational community, and that's investing in relationships. And other things, that is, if you really want to have sustainable change, you also have to look at the organization and at your core values. And those core values are not a paper tiger. And if you really want to have a sustainable change, you have to let them resonate in every part of your organization. And that I used the 7S model of McKinsey. And the question we have to ask is, do we want to invest? And sometimes, and that's maybe not a very inclusive word what I say now, there is no kind of free beer. And sometimes I hear a lot of things we have to work on D&I. And I ask also, do you know what that means? That means that some people who are privileged have to make room. And that's not all, and that is easier to say than to do. And that's why we're all human beings, and we all have our biases and our reflections. And if you want to have a sustainable change, you also have to look at structural changes. Another approach is, and that's also what I have a problem with, and that is the bottom-up approach. And I have a problem with the bottom. That most of the time is the lowest part. And I think we have to talk not about the bottom, but about the basis. We have to have a base approach. And so I started with a ED&I ambassadors network to have a linking pin in every department, because we have a very big faculty, and in every layer, so that we can address the change that we have to make. And that is one part. And another part is, if we have to conduct the changes, we also need some ambassadors who spread the word there where the magic happens. That's why I started with this D&I ambassadors network. And investing in relationships, I have to say, one of the things, and I think maybe it's not typically university of academic world, but a lot of people think at a binary way. It's black or white, it is 0 or 1. And also for the changes we want. So in the changes we want, we conduct a heaven. But we forget we are here on earth, and changes will come with mistakes, with uncomfortable situations. And what I see now is that we are in a sort of cramp. We are too frightened to speak to each other, maybe to hurt another. But if we see this change as a learning organization, we will make mistakes. And I think these mistakes are good to learn, but we have to shape an environment that we can recover relationships. So that is my approach. This is one of my favorite comics in the newspaper of the Volkskrant. And sometimes I have the idea we are in a hurry. But I learned one thing. When my environment wants to accelerate, I have to slow down. And when my environment wants to slow down, I have to make a hurry. And that's not always a nice message, and that's not only about the content, but also about the process. It's okay.
Is there a question?
It's not a question, but it's maybe following your metaphor of the bird. Is it already flying away? Shall we run?
That's a good question. And I think those kind of questions, and I think also those kind of metaphors, we have to use more. I think we have to tell stories. And even stories we don't even have the answer about what should be happen.
Thank you very much, DJ. Now your turn. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So first of all, very honored to be talking to you about my journey in this faculty as well. I always see myself as the baby of this faculty because I did my bachelor's here and I'm now doing my graduation year for Explore Lab. So yeah, I'm just gonna offer you a perspective how it is to actually study here, and it kind of connects to the talks that we've been having right now with Leo as well, and with Lakshmi. It's about being the perspective of a student. So here's mine. Hope you enjoy. This is me. So a bit of a background. I grew up in the Philippines until I was 15. So I've really lived my whole childhood years in the Philippines. And this picture was taken when we would have our daily school mass in the Philippines. As you may know, the Philippines is a colony of Spain. So we've actually also had their traditions with us as well, especially being a Catholic. So every school day, the school would begin with a daily mass. And yeah, this is also something that changed my perception about identity and sexuality when it comes to your environment, because I already know that I am a gay person way back before this photo was taken, but I needed to secretly not show it because of what the society is telling me. And that moment changed when my mother flew to the Netherlands to actually have a better life. I flew in the Netherlands when I was 15. Never flown an airplane before. I've never gone out of the country before. And that was something that changed my perception of life. I told Cecile about this story. I was seated next to this man in one of the flights going to Schiphol, and we were just talking and talking and talking until all of a sudden we were at the airport, and this man hurriedly rushed out to Schiphol airport, me finding him kissing his husband. For me, it was like a change of story of a life that I thought, where am I? The Netherlands is really a neverland. It's a story of it's a non-existing land for me, but here I was, like, enjoying life. And that's actually when it all started, that starting point of me landing in Schiphol, that I actually carried out this feeling of secureness when it comes to my sexuality and identity. And I actually brought it all throughout my career here in the bachelor's. I would say the tutors really helped me harness that power that I have, that I actually never have thought would have. And this is an example of first of the projects that I did in the bachelor's second year. This was Fundamentals 4, where we explored a metropole, a city. It was in Paris, and this is the first moment that I connected identity, sexuality, and architecture. I didn't have an idea that you could connect all of those three. And then all of a sudden, here you go, this Centro Pompidou, very different than its surroundings. And actually, this building could also have feelings. So this was one of the highlights that I have going through the topic that I'm choosing right now. The second part is an urban design project. It's called ON3, also the second year of my bachelor. I want to highlight this because this is the first project that really tackled maatschappelijke problemen, so societal issues when it comes to the built environment, but also the cities that we're living in. We were tasked to really look through the human scale of architecture, and that was really something that I think most architects right now would often miss. But yeah, my tutor always a work in progress between me and my tutor, and I really felt just very lucky to have the tutor that I had with this project. And the last one in my bachelor, it was actually a paper that we needed to write. So I decided to just go full on, explore the notions of sexuality and identity in architecture. Also very happy that my tutor was the one who motivated me to do it. So I researched about queering public spaces. Never have I ever thought of exploring this theme within the domain of architecture. And it just gave me so much joy to do this, and also to, yeah, be able to inspire others that you can actually be diverse when it comes to your projects. And now in my master's, this is just a very short animation that I could sum up my idea when it comes to my focus in architecture, which is actually the middle part of all of these three topics. So the intersection between identity, sexuality, and the architecture and the built environment. Going forward in my master's, I really carried it out. So you could say that I have, I think, the most queer portfolio that you could ever have here in this faculty. I wrote papers about discovering fragments of queer utopia in Rotterdam, where I interviewed a drag queen, how her daily life was. All throughout mapping gay cruising in the Netherlands, I wrote a paper about it with actually Gregory, who is here today as well. So it is actually showing that it's not just the student's responsibility when it comes to diversity, but actually also the tutor itself. And it's a work in progress between those two. And I think most of you have seen these posters in the faculty as well, where this was an elective that I did. It was more of an activistic way of saying some architects are also different than just heterosexuals. My first project was about queer refugees in Antwerp, providing them housing that we really needed in Antwerp. Also, one of the studios, a theory of safer spaces was my theory thesis in the first year, and lastly, the blue lights and hidden lives and the world of transgender sex workers in Amsterdam. So as you can see, all of these themes are surrounded by identity and sexuality, and it is possible to do it here in the domains of architecture. I must say, as I have mentioned already, this is not just my work. It is a work of the whole faculty and the people, the tutors that are helping me, giving me confidence to actually do it and to push forward to do it. So I have Eva as well. Eva Ventura was last year's panelist for this BK Talks as well. We've collaborated to designing safer spaces in nightlife as well. Talked with, I have a panelist session with Cecile as well when it comes to diversity and inclusion within the domains of TU Delft, not just the faculty. Given some workshops when it comes to queer spaces for the students to actually know what they think of it. And this just resulted to like an ambassador of people. There are a lot of like-minded people in the whole domain that actually also focuses on this topic. So all in all, everything that you've just seen is now taken aback for my graduation year, which is about queering the past, the exploration of spaces and identity in pre-colonial Philippines. My tutors is, of course, Cecile, the diversity officer, duh, and Paul Chan. Yeah, just exploring this notion of identity, my own identity, and bringing it back to the Philippines where I grew up, and actually applying everything that I've learned here in this faculty for my graduation project. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, TJ. Is there any question or comment from the audience?
Thanks. I really appreciate the spectrum of topics here and also the keywords. Maybe if I'm allowed, I would add one more keyword, because Leo said that we want to cover society, and my keyword would be class. I miss a bit the discussion about class. Identity, yes, but also class, independently from, you know, if I'm Greek or from the Philippines or from UK.
But class,
You
I
want
mean, you
to-
mean ethnic then? Ethnic
No,
background?
social class, I think
social class.
you're referring to. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's more a question for Leo than for me. But for me personally, I've experienced this as well. When it comes to social class, I know I grew up in the Philippines being very poor. I'm not afraid to say it, but it was actually a way, it's kind of an insight for me that I could use all throughout my journey here in architecture. So it wasn't easy, but I've had found a way to just switch it, if that answers your question.
Thank you. I think we will have the opportunity to go back to these questions. They are very much things in the air that we need to talk about later. Is the time for Irene? Please go ahead. Irene has a kind
an
of
experiment.
Yeah. Okay.
So we are going to experiment a bit because when I got the invitation, I did not feel, well, I am a woman who Southern Europe, so I felt immediately the imposter syndrome. Like, why am I going to be in a diversity talk, and why do I deserve to be there, sitting, representing someone? So I felt that I had to do a bit of an interactive process where I also get to know you. And then I think that's why I'm placed the last, because then we can really start a conversation. So I'm going to invite you to dare a bit, to imagine a radical different faculty. And I think I would really like, get ready your phone, because we are going to use a bit Mentimeter to just have a sense of who is in here. But to break the ice, I'm going to talk a bit about my own struggle first. And I think my goal is to really trying to understand intersectionality in that way. I am a woman, I already say, South European, so Spanish, with a lot of responsibility from the past, by the way. But also, I flee to this country because I felt I needed new opportunities. I was an academic, but I had a struggle during my process as a woman, and that abuse led me to find a better future. And of course, I come north. When I came to the north, I navigated my complexity between academia and practice. And I say this because it's very important to know about myself that I do talk about feminism, but as a meaning, like, I am a feminist navigating how to change cities and how to make cities more inclusive, but I'm not a person who research on feminism theory. And I think that's a very interesting couple of relationship. In practice, I have navigated many years of being systematically oppressed, as a woman in power, as a woman who speaks up and wants to protect her team. And in academia, I have also been systematically oppressed for same reasons, but also for other relationships on speaking up. What I found very interesting when I joined this faculty 2 years ago, for me, was the safe haven. Like, hey, I made it. I'm finally safe. I flew after 10 years of a struggle. I navigated practice, but I made it. I made it in the faculty. That is the safest space I could be. I have to say I'm going to be a bit the negative person maybe in this chat, but I think we are not in a safe haven. And what I realize is that there are a lot of systemic problems within it. I think it's very interesting to celebrate the positive, but I think it's also very important to speak up on the non-that positive situation. And that's why I want to first do a quick poll. So please get your Mentimeter. You have a code up there. and I just want to know who are you. Just use one word. You can say woman, you can say man, you can say black, you can say white, you can say PhD, you can say student, whatever you think it defines right now your situation in this conversation. This is the interactive part. Javier, bear with my experimenting.
That's why you're last.
Yeah, I know. You go mentimeter.com, and then you add the code, which is up there, is 6302050. I can tell you when you are in the web. It's 6302050. This is going to be an interesting talk. Because I do know we are 50% in this faculty, although we are very largely behind in the numbers on leadership, as the female group. Okay, maybe we can always go back to it also in the process, but I'm going to continue because of time. Many of you then are going to relate to me. I want to talk about content versus process, because that's something I have been struggling very much in the process of being a designer, a spatial designer. We praise inclusivity, we praise making a city for all, but actually the way we make cities, it really matters. I think this is a basic statement, but somehow it keeps coming up as something that actually I struggle with talking with many people. The fact that nothing is as political as a spatial design is something that seems very obvious, but it is not. And as well as in practice as I have been experiencing here, it feels like that's a statement that triggers people to discuss. So that's a statement I'm going to put here. I, of course, am going to tell my take. There is no design that doesn't come with your own process of designing. So ideas, beliefs, struggles, knowledge, skills, even traumas coming through your design. And they are tangible in your design. So I will put back the question of us as educators and us as researchers, what are we doing through that research? How are we actually approaching it? As a very interesting example, I always put Jane Drew, because it's very interesting that we have to look decades back to realize that she was actually a very active member of Chandigarh, and she was actually one of the persons investigating human-based participation process in architecture making, but she's practically unknown in our education. I didn't study her. I had to research to find her. And actually, I did through colleagues who actually do feminism and in theory. And then I realized, how long is going to take us for our colleagues of today to realize that we need to look now on what we are doing here in order to look, not find in the future someone needs to find us because we are hidden in our process. So that's why I actually, in the background of this, that I want to dare you to imagine a radical feminist BK. And I'm very in purpose talking about feminism because I know it makes some of the people very uncomfortable. The way I do it, I joined 1.5 years ago, almost 2. And I did 3 things. I first tried to get people who we are minds alike or trying to start a discussion. Very important reflection. The first meeting I tried to organize, I received a lot of opposition. I received comments, I received ideas of why do we need a feminist event? The fact that we trigger or ask ourselves, why do we need a feminist event? Or that someone asked me that, to me is a sign that we really need it. The second one is I created really out of the blue and with no formalization of it, a BK village, which is I already connected with her, but I am a very young mother who is struggling to survive how to grow in academic career at the same time as being a mother. So I created a village. And I realized all of a sudden that we were 5 people who wanted to know each other, but all of a sudden we are like 30 people in that village, and I'm gonna need a bigger room, and I'm gonna need a space for actually engage with each other. Please join us if you feel you need that village. And then I am also proposing from that village itself, I'm really bottom up, wherever means bottom, I actually got on that very interested. We are going to actually look into how to organize a week of womanhood where we celebrate us, because I think it's important we talk about our struggle, but it's also important that we celebrate our benefits. If you imagine a feminist BK, I think the first question that comes to me to start that discussion towards spring, that we want to start this discussion, is what does feminism mean to you? And I really would like for you to do that now. I know everyone is with the pizza in the hands, and it's very annoying.
We are multitasking. No
Yeah,
problem.
exactly. It's very important to multitask. Oh, that's beautiful. Someone say power. Well, I don't have time for questions, but I would love to ask someone who say justice. But maybe we can use it later for the Q&A. Or thoughtfulness, collaboration, equality. This one is a very interesting, equality, because one of the things I really defend is like the problem of what I realize here in the Netherlands is that when we talk about equality, people understand that we are done. Woman does not need to fight anymore. And I come from a context maybe that I have been fighting for years for equality. And I think here there is a problem of equity. And there we are, finally, yes. So there is a problem of equity. And that's where we need to rename the struggle we are having here. It's not about the amount of women, of course 50% of women, but what is actually their positioning, what is the capacity to make changes. That's when we are talking about equity. Well, thank you for that. And then for the last question, which I want to bring just to the Q&A, it's very interesting for me to understand the capacities we have. We are all in a power position in different levels. We are all having a positionality, and we all have a different capacity. I call for actions on feminist leadership, which is very much a concept known from mostly used in the Global South, which is about trying to understand who is in what power position and what can you do. I interpret it and try to translate it towards here. Then my question is like, what can you do? Actually, what actions can we take towards a feminist BK? And that's the last question. Listen, very interesting. Talk, be loud, speaking up, shout, getting involved, take a stand, read, microfeminism, lift each other up, embrace solidarity, sponsorship. I really love that listening is becoming the big word, because we very much need to listen to each other. And this is a way I conclude, because I personally felt I needed to listen to you, not only you listening to me. And I felt that we need to define what is a feminist BK and what is a feminist faculty, and how can we make it happen. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Irene. This is the first time that I am doing the BK Talks with pizza in the mouth, so I should have thought of that before. I would like to open the discussion to everybody. So There are questions in the air, questions from what Irene just presented, but also questions that are still to be answered and asked from the previous presenter. So who would like to start saying something, commenting on something, answering to something? I know we are all eating, but let's try to let's try to do it.
Maybe I have one. Like following up to the question I had with Leo's presentation as well. What do you think about the language barrier in a bachelor's? Because we were all talking about reaching out to the high schools, not just in the Netherlands, but I think outside of the Netherlands. But the fact remains that it's a Dutch-speaking course.
Yeah, the last time that this was seriously debated, I think, was about 10 years ago. And the conclusion of this debate was that most of our Dutch-speaking students will actually work in the Netherlands, and so they will need to know the language also that comes with a professional, with the profession. And also I think that yeah, so I remember that. I was not a part of that, or not really a part of that discussion, but I remember that this was one of the arguments. And if we speak about going into the yeah, reaching out to people in our region or even beyond, making them aware that they could also try to enter our institution. Language is an issue to the extent that people have to write and verbalize what they see in space, and this is a difficult question. And I think if you're not from a school system where you were trained to do this, or where there were perhaps courses that invited you to do this, I think this can really be a challenge. So I agree with you that we should possibly rethink this, that there may be people, if you are completely new to the subject and you're discovering something new, a possibility, that it may yet be very difficult to verbalize this. And so I think you're right, that maybe we should be more inclusive in the language that we use.
Thank you, Leo.
Yeah, sorry. So just in addition to that, so I just started my master's here, and even though your master's is an English course, and there have been a lot of talk about diversity and inclusivity, and coming from a different place, I do understand that you're trying to make us comfortable, but like after spending almost 2 months here now, I feel like that's still not very inculcated in the program. Like, your master's course is an English program, yes, and I communicate in English with my professors and my peers. I'm actually very confident with the language. I don't feel any issues with communicating in the language. I don't have to bring my mother tongue in the conversation because nobody's going to understand that. That's okay. But I can talk in English. I can communicate. But the fact that, like you said, that the diversity is only limited to a certain extent, it just, I have peers in my studio who keep continuing in Dutch, and even though I have signed up for a Dutch course online and I'm trying to learn, and probably at the end of 2 years I will get there, but like in a matter of 2 months, that's impossible for me, and I still feel excluded because I know I can't influence their decision to talk in Dutch, but that's happening beside me. I'm in a group of 4 and the other 3 are Dutch, and I'm always out of the conversations because no matter how much I try to include myself into it, it's not going to happen because they are more comfortable. I'm not going to expect them to change their medium of communication, but that's just something that there is. Like, it's not a question, it's not an add-on conversation, it's just like a feedback or like a point that I wanted to raise like for almost a month now.
If I can connect with this, because what I find interesting is it happened also to me as a teacher, which my students speak in Dutch and I don't understand them, which is okay, because I think they can have their bubble and talk by themselves. But I could understand or relate to why for you feels in a certain level discriminatory. But I think that's a very interesting thing we need to learn as teachers, because for instance, when we discuss how to put groups in the master, there is always the idea that one international needs to be distributed. So the groups are always like national and international. So if there are less internationals, then we make sure there is at least one international per group. But actually that, I realize, it could put you guys in a discriminatory setup. Because then you feel systematically, rather than actually them integrating you, intuitively they discriminate you. So maybe that's a very interesting thing that we, as teaching, need to engage with. Like, the diversity is not sometimes about equality of distributing people, but actually empowering you to be able to speak in English with your peers and then feel safe.
Yeah, I felt like it was a great initiative in the beginning, that they mixed up all the groups and they were not just all Dutch people in one group and all internationals in one group, and there was like a great mix of international and Dutch students. But then there was subgrouping, and there was again even more like smaller groups, and then that would eventually lead, because the proportionality is such, I mean, I'm not blaming it, but it is so that you are always going to have more Dutch people in the group than internationals. But then in my specific situation, which I feel like other people in my studio are also facing, it sort of happens that the smaller you try to make the group, the more disparity or the division sort of scales up, which I feel like what you pointed out would be sort of a good solution towards, right?
There was also another comment there.
Oh, hi. I had a question for you, actually. So you said that you joined the Bartlett 3 years ago, and that was kind of straight after the kind of big scandal about students.
Yes.
And that was like, because I studied in London at the time, so we were very kind of involved. And I wanted to ask how you kind of integrated yourself into this kind of almost systematic failure of the system there. And how did you see this kind of initiative that you started or you chaired, kind of working almost against some of the established, of even crits or the established systems that were there and that still kind of very much are?
Yeah, my God. It was such an exciting challenge, okay? So when me and Maxwell joined, and that's when, I mean, 2 months ago, the report was out, and like everybody were not even talking. And, I was just wondering, what is this? The Bartlett's supposed to be, quite vibrant and all that. And then, and then actually, I knew that report was out, but I did not go in depth what was written. And then, me and Maxwell, we sat, okay, gossip time. Okay, so all this has happened. Okay, all right. And then there was this internal call for expression of interest for co-directors of EDI. And I'm sure they don't have an option but to give us the position, because we were the only 2 new people who entered into Bartlett who were not linked to the scandal. So that was an opportunity what we got. And I could also see that the situation itself gave us quite a lot of opportunity to do stuff which we wouldn't have had that much support, because the faculty, the department wanted to tell the world that, we are making a difference, So we were, whatever we were suggesting, it was kind of supported, which was good. At the same time, I should also say that, for example, as a part of our EDI initiative, one thing what we set up was to have this platform we call as EDI Dialogues, and the tagline was like making difficult conversations happen. But it's so hard to get the management agreed that this is what we are going to discuss. They don't want to open the floodgates. So we need to kind of negotiate that. And yeah, there is hypocrisy everywhere. But at least in my case and Maxwell's case, no, we were in a better position to do these things, and which was exactly the reason why React project was funded, because we could say in our proposal that, you know what, all this is happening, you better give us the money to do something, you know. So, so that was, yeah, so that was it. And it is still, it's a long journey, and as you say, it's systemic. Anything which is systemic is so hard to, you know, kind of fight for, but at least, no, there is some platform where we could do this. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I know that would have been a burning question, isn't it? Oh.
Thank you so much. I would like to contribute to the question about class dynamics in relation to students, international students versus local students. Yeah, I view it as a big issue, but it can be solved. It's not easily solvable, and also it's not solvable by quickly blaming those who switch to their language in an international setting, without actually appraising ourselves how much we have conscientized our people to be aware of, let's say, unconscious biases, because I view these problems as resulting from unconscious biases, and sometimes it's much of an issue when we factor in race and color, but also even among people of the same color, backgrounds, values, and the like, they affect how people react when they come together. I can give an example of us Africans or Black Africans. I have been in international settings. I did my master's and PhD at a very international institute, the ITC at the University of Twente. You found out that the Kenyan colleagues, when they were together, even if we were just as Black Africans, because of a value from their country, the Harambe value that they just identify, they quickly identify with each other, and they quickly switch to their language, because this value is about togetherness in their country. And so we would find out that just when we are walking as Black Africans, they can quickly switch into their Swahili. So my first point is that let's not make it an issue that is related to race or color. It happens even among the people of the same color. Then the second point is that we have to deal with that unconscious bias. Try to negotiate these spaces. Let's say as the teacher in class, you can just try to make your students know that there is this unconscious bias that can happen, so that when students interact, they know that I can have this bias, so they become intentional about inclusion. And those that feel excluded as well, they also need to be empowered to break these cliques, but without making it much of an issue. So there's need for these trainings, both for the locals or for the main groups, majority groups, and for the minority groups, how to navigate these cliques.
Do we have any comments from there?
Okay, I think one thing I wanted to share from my experience teaching at the Bartlett was, because language is something we've been discussing. I think language is such an important aspect of learning, teaching, and identity, belonging, not belonging. So I could so much relate to all the issues, the kind of exclusion language can bring in. So I teach this program, a postgraduate program. It's a one-year program, like full of international students. And then at the end of the final semester is the final project. So while they do research topic based on their own interest, ultimately they need to come up with an artifact supported by the research report. So the artifact can be anything. It can be a poem, it could be a drawing, it could be a fiction or blah, blah, blah. So there was this Turkish student. So he was looking at his village and he wanted to look into the everyday life and the quality of life and the phenomenological experiences, blah, blah, blah. And it was very, very deep, the kind of what he's talking about, and because it was so localized. And then so he was in the final stages of submission, like in 2 days he need to submit it, and he was just asking me, you know what, Lakshmi, I need to title this. So his artifact was an illustrated novel, that's what he did. And then he wanted to title it, with initially he had something in Turkish, and then he said, okay, he'll change it eventually. And then he was like telling Lakshmi, like 2 days only, but no, I'm still not able to get a word, which is equivalent to this word and all that. And then he was trying so many things, and then said, no, why can't you just use Turkish? Let the title of your artifact be in Turkish. And okay, people don't understand, you just put a line, what it means. So even this thing, where even when we are not able to find the equivalent to English, it is so hard for us to know that we can still use another language, for your creative output. Not a problem. English is not knowledge; it's a language. So like these are some things which we have to be very reflective. You can make a huge statement by just titling your work in your native language, and there are times in my research work when we do a story mapping, it's so hard to tell a story of a place which is so rich in folklore and English, which completely flattens everything what we are trying to say. We kind of, so we make a statement, we make a decision. You know what, this story is going to have my native language, which is going to come as a conversation between two protagonists. So if the person is not understanding, it's okay. If the person really wants to know it, they can Google it, what it means. There's a Google Translate. So these are these small, decisions what we can make as, students or academics, where we kind of tell, okay, there's a platform for plural languages and voices and all that stuff. So I thought just a short, I thought I'll share this. Anybody else?
Thank you, Lakshmi. Is there any comment or other questions or
Could I ask one thing? So I also wanted to ask maybe about the bachelor program, because I feel like, especially when clashing perhaps the UK system to maybe others or from other countries in Europe as well, there's a lot of, at least from my perception, there's a lot of talk about, this is technical university, technology is the center of what we do, and that has to kind of shine through maybe as the main or often like majority part of the project or the research. And I was wondering, perhaps kind of this approach also in higher education, that kind of the rules, the very strict rules regarding that are not allowing maybe the other side of individualities, languages, queerness, to become part of the curriculum as well, and to reach the people that maybe you'd like to reach through changing the overall kind of approach to what design is, not removing technology, of course, but kind of allowing new aspects to kind of enter into the dialogue of the mainstream in the university.
It's a very good question. Even I had that, to be asking somebody in this faculty.
Yeah, I think with the constraints that the technical university places on us and on the students, for instance, in that they have to reach a certain level in math knowledge, physics knowledge, English level should be in order. Where we as a faculty used to think, well, yeah, math and physics, yeah, sure, you need that, but that's really not the core of our business, like in other faculties. We see each other, or I hope that I speak on behalf of the whole community, that we see ourselves as a design school, and this is also how we communicate ourselves to freshmen or even students, say potential students at high schools. So whereas I completely agree with you that that this could have a where I agree with you that we cannot completely take out technology. I think we shouldn't. I think there is a role for technology in addressing the societal issues where we are expected to come up with part of an answer. At the same time, I do agree that that technology alone is not the answer. And we need to place technology always in a wider perspective. And I think this wider perspective is perhaps what you mean, and that students can choose for themselves which part of the spectrum they want to cover in thinking about technology and the role of technology in society. And I think if we would succeed in offering students this possibility, this would be, this would be actually pretty good, I think. I'm not saying that we don't do it at the moment, but I surely agree that we can also improve here.
Okay, we are running out of time. I don't know if Cecile, would you like to say something to wrap up, and then I will say bye-bye? Yeah, okay. Good, then thank you very much everyone for participating. I think it was a very lively discussion. I really enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoyed the pizzas and the drinks. I think this is a really successful recipe, so we should, we should keep doing this. During the conversation, I kept thinking all the time how much of a very small bubble we are becoming anyway, no? I think it's great that there's a kind of a space like this, which is more or less safe, although maybe it's not that safe. Still, we are a very small bubble when we compare to what's happening outside, no? One of the things that I kept thinking today, it's great to celebrate the diversity of this group here, but one of the things that I already talked about to Cecile when we were organizing this is, at this moment, our new government has released all a sort of long list of measures against diversity, no? Against those who are different. All a list of measures to stop immigration, to limit asylum, and how to force or how to request from universities the fact that less international students might be admitted. Probably you are, I hope that you're already thinking about it, because I keep thinking about it and talk about it with other faculty members. Me, as an immigrant in the Netherlands, I feel sort of rejected already by the government that is ruling this country, very much rejected. But this is not only happening in the Netherlands. I think we all need to be aware that we, the very small bubble, have in front of us a tsunami coming from all over, it's all happening all over Europe, no? Or just to a comment of today's news is that Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, has admitted that maybe Europe needs to start thinking that immigrants should stay before in third countries, like the United Kingdom was trying to do in Rwanda, like Madame Meloni is trying to do in Albania. So the European Commission is, let's say, giving in to those ideologies, which are ideologies that are completely against to what we are talking here. To me, there's a big gap between us and what happens outside the academia, and I wonder how to build bridges so that we are not part of this kind of, let's say, fragile bubble or very tiny bubble. That's my feeling every time we celebrate these BK Talks, no? When 25% of voters here, those who can vote, I cannot vote, vote what they vote. no? And not only here, think of Austria. Anyway, I will not extend, I will just, we can keep talking about it with the next drinks. This is not working? Should I? Yeah. So the next event that we are organizing is the opening of the exhibition, Building with the Delta. It's about the work of the architect from Bangladesh, Marina Tabassum. It's quite a big endeavor that we are undertaking within the BK public programs. She's a professor here, and we are bringing a lot of her work in the form of models that are extremely heavy, by the way. We are working on that, but we will fill the room on the 31st of October with her work. I hope that you join that opening. On that day, we will be this model, this prototype will be also exhibited here. That's also one of the endeavors that we are undertaking. I hope that we learn a lot from that. On that day, we will also have a BK Talks. She won't be here with us that day. She will come later, so we will have a proper conversation about her work on that day. On the 26th of November, but on the 31st, after the opening, what we plan to do is to have her students, that having her students here at TU Delft, tell us how is it that she works as an educator. We are going to know about her work as an architect and a practitioner at the exhibition, but the BK Talks will focus on what is it to be taught or educated, if I may say, by Marina Tabassum. So, and last but not least, and this is a little bit of self-promotion, I want to announce the start of a new group within the architecture department. It's a very small group, so I take the liberty of announcing it today. It's called Building Audiences, and it has a lot to do with what I just spoke, no? The distance, the much bigger gap that we are establishing between the academia and the society and the publics. So the group within the architecture department is called Building Audiences. I think that it's self-explanatory. I don't need to talk so much about it, no? I won't read all this, no, but it's about curatorial practices, examining how research, installations, exhibitions, publications, and public programs engage diverse audiences and inspire action. So that's basically what the group is about. And our students, hopefully when they join, they will tackle societal challenges by creating exhibitions, publications, and digital initiatives to convey complex architectural ideas. We will be working from the point of view of design, but we will looking at, let's say, urgent matters. We are very small, only two of us, me and Adrien Ravon. We are colleagues working together for already 10 years at the Y Factory. So we are sort of a spin-off from Vinnie Maas's factory and group, with his blessing, by the way. So we are very happy to get started with this new challenge. We will be opening for the MSc2 what we call the curating series, and we will curating many topics, things that matter or things that we are worried about, be it tourism, be it water, be it concrete, be it air, be it extraction, etc., etc., etc. So what we want to do is to have our students curate and produce exhibitions that tackle those issues, and then bring those topics into the public sphere, into public space throughout many ways. No? How to engage with publics throughout installations, digital constructions, etc., etc. These are examples from how do you bring these ideas into somebody's cafeteria, no? When you are having your coffee or your pizza. So this is a little bit what is it that we are trying to do through our many means. That's what we are going to do for the MSc2, and we are about to have one Q5 approved that has to do what we are doing here, which is having a one Q5 in order to make one exhibition in the OCR and one BK Talks, curated and produced designed by the students with the help of the BK Public Programs team, publications, which is something that I have been involved for many, many years. And yeah, that's it. We start with curating tourism, and we will produce an exhibition about tourism that we will bring to the city of Malaga, which is very much of a complicated place when it comes to tourism. It is just invaded by it. So if you want to know more, please join us. The room is to be decided, but on November 19th, we will have a better explanation about what is it that we do. Thank you for standing this self-promotional, but we have very, very little channels to do it, and we are very, very small. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Thank you.